Does that answer the question? I feel like I kind of went on a tangent.
I mean, yeah, like I forget what I asked, so it's fine though. Yeah, I'll take a drink of water as well.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm already feeling it.
It's hot in here.
I think I wore my sweating shirt, so
Yeah,
you'll see the
that's
big stain.
Is this thing on? Hey everybody, hope you're staying healthy. Today I have the president of the WVU Film Club, Jeff Boggess. Jeff, how you doing, buddy?
Get along. Hanging in there.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. So right now you're working on a project called Finish Line. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that project?
Yeah, so that project is a personal one of mine. It was like, I was going to make it for my birthday, because I made a birthday video last year. My birthday's in January, so I'm a little far behind at this point. But it's about like how, as like the film club president, I get people who bring me onto projects sometimes, and people talk a lot about things they want to do, and then like they don't always get finished, which I'm guilty of that too. And that's what the Finish Line is actually about. It's like all these projects I started over the course of the past 4 or 5 years and then never finished, but I've got all this footage.
Okay.
So I'm finally like putting them all together into one big project with like a framing device.
Like stringing it all together.
Yeah.
I got you. That's dope. Are you just working with film club people mainly, or anybody else?
It's mostly just me, honestly.
Oh, word.
Well, over the course of the past few years, I had other people involved in these projects, and I feel like I sort of let them down because I never finished them. You know, so I haven't really shot much this year for it. It's just been me sitting in my room, bent over my desk, editing by myself.
So you got all the filming done, but you just didn't finish the editing, or was it kind of like you didn't completely finish? Just
Well, there's a few projects, and they didn't always get finished for a few reasons. Like some of them I just didn't fully commit to. You know, like I started and I didn't exactly know how I was gonna finish, so like I didn't finish it. And then there's some where like I started them and then people bailed, so like I didn't have the resources to finish them. So it's just like half a video with like no resolution. So I'm just like, well, throw it in with the rest, just put a glitch effect and then cut to the next video, and that's gonna be our movie basically.
Yeah.
So
finish it in post, dude. That's what it's all about.
Always
Fix
gotta
it in post.
chop it up.
Go check out The History of Dogtown, which is already on YouTube. It's a super interesting video. What does that project really like kind of mean to you?
So that was a video I made for my birthday in 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I turned 20. And that was like, up until that point, anytime I made a video, it was like with other people. They would like shoot it or they would edit it. And that project was kind of like, it was all me. I kind of wanted to prove to myself that I could do something without needing someone else to pick up the slack for me. And so I did. And that story is entirely true, because I used to have like stuffed animals when I was a kid, and I would play with those and made like the whole world and everything, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So I made a video about it. It's like 4 or 5 minutes long.
What kind of made you want to do it about that subject matter specifically? Was it just you thought you could shoot all that on your own, or?
Yeah, definitely. Like practicality is important when it comes to these like no budget projects. Really, it was almost like animation, because you put the camera in one spot and then you just move things in and out of the frame, and that's what a majority of the video is.
Yeah.
And like I like to think it's a pretty rich story, because it was like there's a lot of thought, a lot of characters and stuff, but the style was sort of like, have you watched How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah.
It's like the one episode where he's got like the blinders because he's trying not to find out who won the Super Bowl.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Literally
he's like going to get chicken wings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like the same song for that sequence and everything I used in the video.
Okay.
It's just kind of chaotic, but at the same time it's very deliberate.
With The History of Dogtown, though, is that how you got started into storytelling more so?
No, actually. I started making videos when I was in high school. Really, it was my senior year. So I was in the marching band, and I was in the show choir band. I played drums in both. And, like, during practices, I'd just get super bored, and then I'd whip out my phone, and I'd start videoing things, and I didn't even know what I was making when I started, but I started putting stuff together. I made this series called The Band Diaries, which was just like behind the scenes of my senior year of marching band. And there's like 5 parts that chronicle the marching band season.
Mm-hmm.
And like I kind of used it to workshop my editing skills, because you can definitely see a difference in part 1 versus part 5. And then I did the show choir season, and that's where I got my introduction into video making, was in high school.
Okay.
Those. And people watched them because people were in the programs and they enjoyed them, so it was encouraging to continue.
Yeah, of course. It's like always funny to see yourself on screen, even if it's on like a little like video.
Yeah, always.
But I more so meant like just the idea of storytelling, like making your own story, creating your own world. Is that kind of what you brought to light with the history of Dogtown? Like from when you were a kid?
Yeah. When I played with those stuffed animals as a kid, that's when I started sort of like, they were characters. All of them were characters. And it's kind of weird, I'm a man talking about playing with stuffed animals right now, but that's what I did. And I'm just going to be honest about that, because, I watched a lot of TV, played a lot of video games, but I also like to play with my stuffed animals with my brother, and we had like a narrative and an arc and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's so fun. It's so creative to be able to do that. I wish I could still do it, honestly, but it just feels kind of weird if I'm like, sitting on the floor with my...
You've also done a lot of spoof commercials. Why is that topic so interesting to you?
Oh, because it's so easy. It's so easy. I mean, think about it. Like, everybody watches commercials. So you see them a bunch of times. And then if you watch it over and over, you realize just how dumb they are in general.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's pretty easy to come up with something. All you got to do is like exaggerate one detail about it, and then you've got a parody. I mean, SNL, the best man, I can't talk. The best SNL shorts are like commercial parodies.
Mm-hmm.
Those are always the ones that get to me, because it's like, it's familiar.
Yeah.
And I think people will laugh at something if it's familiar, and they're like, oh, that's true.
Yeah.
I get that,
Because I think everybody feels the same way about commercials. It's like, oh, why am I watching this? This is so dumb.
From like an advertising major, I totally agree with that. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm part of the problem.
What first motivated you to take a microphone and camera downtown and like just videotape drunk people?
Oh man, that was a big leap, because it's like, you take a controlled set, you got your characters and you have a set goal in mind. You just throw that out the window. It's like chaos when you go out on the streets with a microphone and a camera. Some people are going to be all about it. Some people are going to be like, get that out of my face. I'm allowed to say right?
We got it. So we'll just be like,
yeah.
But yeah.
I figured it out. But most of the time, actually, people were really excited to talk on camera. And that was surprising to me. I'm not really that outgoing of a person most of the time, but I can fake it till I make it. So like, it was pretty nerve-wracking to be on the street interviewing drunk people, even though it's like so low stakes.
What's kind of the vibe at WVU Film Club? Do most of the films and projects come into fruition, or they kind of get chopped short?
So we never try to do any like big film club projects like as a team.
Like as a unit.
Yeah, because I don't want to shoehorn people into roles that they don't want to play, and you got to cover all the roles. In film club, there are a few people interested in writing and acting. I'm like one of the only ones interested in like cameras and editing.
And directing.
Yeah, well, everybody wants to direct.
Yeah, of course.
But I don't think a lot of people realize that if you want to make projects, you have to understand cameras and sound and editing, because you can write it, someone else can shoot it, someone else can edit it, but you have to understand what your project's going to look like. So people don't approach me with projects a lot. Most of the time, if I'm doing one, I just ask people if they want to get involved, because it's like a gateway to getting people into it.
That's cool that the film club is more of just a medium for, I don't even know if medium is the right word, just a platform for people to meet each other and then get involved.
Yeah, and that's what we want it to be. We want it to be like a sort of like a production company, you know, put people together to bring individual projects to life.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal.
Yeah. For incoming people, if you're watching this and you're an incoming freshman, is it easy to kind of throw yourself into projects? Like if someone's like, I wrote this, can they like come to you and be like, can you help me find the people that I need to put this together?
Yeah, I think so. I've never had any trouble with that. And that's because, let's say, I've been the president for coming on 2 years now. So I know everybody who's a part of the group, and I know what they've done, what they're good at, what they want to do. And if people come to me with projects, even if I can't get involved with them, I mean, we've had this conversation before too, where if I can't commit myself, I try to get people in touch with who is available.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's super important, not just from a technical standpoint, but from a moral standpoint. Like your morale is low if people just keep bailing on you.
Yeah.
And I hope that Film Club and the community aspect of it can assuage that, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's hard to put yourself out there creatively as it is, and then if you're just trying so hard and no one's reciprocating it, that's just damaging.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. What are some of the inspirations you draw on for different videos?
For different videos, a lot of people say, or not a lot of people, but some people have told me that they're like SNL shorts, which is very nice to hear. I like that a lot. I mean, SNL's the big leagues, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely get inspiration from that. Really, it's very easy to do stuff like this right now. Like, you could commit yourself to gaining a following on like YouTube, and if you get a loyal fan base, you can turn that into like a full-time job.
Yeah.
If you gotta challenge yourself to put out content consistently. That's the biggest thing, is consistency.
Yeah.
So if you're like a student, then it's tough because you got school. If you're working full-time or even part-time, it's tough.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite genres in film to watch?
I love that question because I actually love it whenever films transcend genre. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
These guys. No, I'm kidding.
My favorite films are like two genres that kind of play off each other. So
like romantic comedy. I'm just kidding.
That's, oh boy. I don't know if you've heard of a movie called Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Jim Carrey.
With Jim Carrey, yeah, in a dramatic role. One of my favorite movies of all time. That's like a rom-com that's also dramatic. It's also kind of like sci-fi because they got like the technology where you enter somebody's head.
Yeah.
And it's also like sort of like fantasy by the way it's shot and things just show up in places. That film is a masterpiece.
Dude, oh my gosh, love that movie. But like also the thriller aspect when he's like in his own mind and he's like terrified and like trying to like save what he can.
Yeah, it's scary, it's funny, it's like heartwarming, and it makes you cry. I've never actually cried at a movie, by the way, but it makes you kind of get a little teary-eyed.
I guess if you don't really play into the whole genre thing, who are some of the directors or actors that inspire you to create?
I love Wes Anderson. He did like Grand Budapest Hotel, Fantastic Mr. Fox. He's got that like picturesque cinematography where it's like everything is like meticulous at like 90-degree angles. You could take a still frame out of any of his movies and just put it on a postcard because it's like, but his style like goes beyond cinematography. It's got like really deadpan dialogue and
color palettes.
Yes, yeah, the coloring is insane. Also, Edgar Wright. Edgar Wright's probably my favorite working director. He did Baby Driver. He did Shaun of the Dead, Scott Pilgrim. And that's because I think he really utilizes the medium of film. He does comedies mostly, but he does like visually comedic things with his technical specs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like a lot of the time there are a lot of films that are adapted from books, and they don't use that.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, this was an amazing book, and so we're going to make it into a movie so we can make money.
Yeah.
But, like, people don't understand how much you have at your grasp if you switch it over to film.
Yeah, you got to tell the story a different way while keeping it the same story to keep people happy. Because, you can't just turn a book into a movie, just having someone, like, narrate the whole thing. That's boring. Nobody wants that.
You're in a lot of your own skits. Is that out of necessity or just because you like to act?
I do like to act in them, for sure. I like to be in them if I can, because I like, I feel like I want to put a face to them, and I mean, they're on, like, my Instagram and everything, so I want people to see that it's me doing it, But also, like, if I can't be in it, it's not a big deal. I'll just point the camera at somebody else.
How do you get into a space where people recognize that you're more than just someone making videos with your friends and you're a creative that's trying to make something?
That's, a lot of that definitely depends on the content that you're putting out. If you're putting out, like, a video every now and then, it's, like, kind of funny. It's like, okay, this person knows how to make videos. If you're doing it consistently, there's more respect to that because they acknowledge that it's an effort.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you also have a professional side to it, that's when people actually take you seriously.
Yeah.
So when I first got to the university, I started trying to get interested in video because when I shot video in high school, it was just all on my phone. I didn't have, like, an actual camera or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I still really am not into, like, the technical specs on cameras, on lenses, and that kind of thing. It's just, like, it doesn't really interest me.
Yeah.
But you have to understand it if you want to make stuff.
At least to some extent.
Yeah. You have to know, like, the bare basics. You have to know how to compose a shot, how to adjust lighting, stuff like that, unless you just shoot automatic, which I refuse to do. So, it's like getting professional work done is important, but also don't get burnt out. There's, like, a fine line where you take on projects and you just say yes to everything. Like, don't just say yes to everything. I had that problem when I was a freshman, when I was a sophomore. I just said yes all the time, no matter if it paid or not. And damn, I got burnt out super quick.
Yeah.
It's too much, especially when a lot of the times people who want videos done, they can't do it themselves. So they sort of expect you to know what they want.
Yeah.
And that's super irritating.
Mm-hmm.
Because also, a lot of the times if you're doing this professionally, you have to say, all right, I'm going to give you 3 edits or, like, 2 edits. Because if you send the video, they'll be like, oh, can you change this? And you'll send it again. They'll just have, like, a list of microscopic things they want micromanaged.
What do you think the hardest part about making a film is, especially with new people?
With new people, it's about, I think one of the biggest things is creating an environment on set that is encouraging and also professional. Especially if you're shooting something with your friends, it's like, you have to be prepared to, like, lay down the law, but also, like, you wouldn't be doing this if you weren't, like, having a good time, especially if you're not. I don't plan on getting money out of any of my videos or anything like that, so it's like there's a balance. Especially people who aren't experienced, you have to be patient, but also sort of push them a little bit. So you really got to strike that balance.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just don't understand how much really goes into it. Like, it's not just, like, getting a camera. It's not just getting a microphone. It's not even just editing. Like, there's so much that goes into it more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. People say that a movie with bad sound is immediately worse than a movie with a bad picture. Because,
oh, really?
Yeah, because if you can't hear the movie, you can't understand it, even if the picture is, like, crystal clear.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, you're watching something, maybe it's like 480p, 720p. As long as you can hear the audio, you can still understand what's going on, even though it's not the best resolution.
Yeah.
Audio is, like, that's the thing that separates amateur projects from professional projects, pretty much.
Are you grateful that we have such an accessibility to film making as people? Because before, the only people that made films were, like,
studios.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So another one of my favorite directors is his name's Jim Cummings. not the voice of Winnie the Pooh. It's a different guy. And I follow him on like social media. He's super indie. He has not really been discovered. He made a movie called Thunder Road in 2018. It's so good. But he is always encouraging people to just make their projects, because I think a lot of the times the roadblocks when it comes to film are psychological. You just don't think you can do it, so you don't try. But the truth is, like you said, film is incredibly accessible right now to people who want to make these projects. It's all about learning how to tackle them. And there are wrong ways, sure, but there's no like right way to do it.
Yeah, there are a lot of different ways to do it for sure.
Yeah, exactly, especially depending on the project, you know. So I think it's great that people have access to film. There's going to be a lot of projects that came from people being isolated right now and unable to do anything but just think creatively and try to stay creative.
Do you have any ideas for documentaries you want to make?
I want to make like Appalachian-based documentaries, because I feel like this area has a bad rep just because it doesn't have a voice.
Yeah.
And scapegoated a lot, definitely. Like,
For sure.
poor hillbillies, that kind of thing. It's like stupid, dumb hicks. But it's such a diverse region that there's so much more going on here than people who just dismiss it that way realize.
Yeah. It's definitely annoying to deal with it.
Yeah, there's already a really cool documentary about it called Hillbilly. That was, it's a 2018 doc, and it's about Appalachian stereotypes, basically. It's very inspiring for me as both a native Appalachian and an aspiring filmmaker.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Interesting. Do you think you could do anything or are you going to do anything locally, or is it going to be, you're just going to be all over the place?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'd love to travel. That'd be cool. But also, I want to do this region justice.
Check out his Instagram. It's right there. And check him out on YouTube. Just type in his name, Jeff Boggess. And then also check out the WVU Film Club. If you're an aspiring creative, or you just want to get involved in creative activities, then feel free to contact him or the club. I'm Sam. This was Jeff, and y'all take it easy.
And I hate editing wedding videos. I don't want to shoot weddings.
Yeah, stop having feelings and stuff and getting married. Like, who do you think you are?
It's pretty gross, guys.
It's hard, but make your projects anyway, because it's fun.
Absolutely. Okay, cool, because I didn't think I was subscribed, so I was just checking.
Like and subscribe.